This is your one and only 𝐈𝐸𝐻81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and welcome back to another Elden Ring video. Today we are going to compare Frost versus Bleed. Let's get to it. So the other day I put out a video using the bandit's curved sword to quickly apply and remove Frost over and over again on the target, because Frost, when it does apply, does a percentage of the target's health as damage, similar to Bleed. It also causes the target to stagger or flinch for a period of time, allowing you to quickly attack over and over again and almost stun lock them. Very similar to what Bleed does. Well, in that video, I got a bunch of comments of people asking, why don't you just use Bleed? Bleed is better, use Bleed, blah, 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 bleed, bleed, bleed. One of the reasons I designed that build the way I did to quickly apply and remove and reapply Frost for large bursts of damage is because there are targets that are not susceptible to Bleed. They just don't bleed. However, they can have the Frost buildup applied to them. I have yet to find anything that cannot have the Frost buildup applied to it. There are targets that are resistant to Frost that just take longer for it to be applied, but I have yet to find any that just cannot have it applied at all, unlike Bleed. A good example of this is Radagon, one of the last bosses in the game. Cannot bleed, but can be frosted. There are a few others scattered throughout the game. Anyway, so all those people who are like, hey, Bleed is better, got me wondering, is Bleed really better? So I devised a test. I've got both of these swords here. As you can see, one has Frost on it, the other one has Bleed on it. I made sure that they had the same attack power. You can see right now, they do not have the same attack power. However, if we unequip this and we unequip this, you can see that brings us to 500 on our Frost weapon right here. If I unequip our Frost weapon and I re-equip this, you can see that puts us at 500 on our Bleed weapon. Now, we do have a slight discrepancy here in making these the same as possible for this test, and that is we have a Frost buildup of 104 and we have a Blood loss buildup of 112. Getting these to be the exact same posed to be extremely difficult, but I was able to get them pretty close enough, I felt, for this test. So after that, I headed over to the large dragon, which is a good test dummy for a lot of things, specifically for things where you're not super concerned on actual damage output, because it does provide you a debuff which lowers your overall damage. However, we weren't too concerned about damage. We were more concerned about the amount of hits, although you still can see a difference in damage. And what I did over there is I just counted hits. I went and attacked multiple times with the Frost active, and I went and attacked multiple times with Bleed active. And you're seeing that play out on the screen now, and you will continue to see it as I talk about the numbers and my findings. So for testing Bleed, to activate the first Bleed took 7 hits. To activate it again took 10 hits. To activate it again took 14 hits. To activate it a fourth time took another 14 hits. So what that tells me is that things have a maximum resist that they can build up over time to any of these effects. And from what it looks like for this specific target, that caps out at 14 hits, because after that, every other time I struck the target in order to activate a Bleed, it took 14 hits. So what's interesting is before the dragon activated the debuff on us, our first Bleed did 13,509 damage. After we had that debuff on us, each Bleed after that did 13,470 damage. Now moving on to Frost, to activate Frost the first time took 7 hits. To activate it the second time took 10 hits. To activate it the third time took 15 hits, and to activate it the fourth time and every time after that took 15 hits. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, so it takes more hits for Frost than it does for Bleed. And no, I don't think that that's the case. I think what's happening there, and the reason we were getting 15 hits instead of 14, has to do with the fact that we did not have the exact same amount of buildup. We had 112 on our Bleed weapon and we had 104 on our Frost weapon. And that extra hit could just be a situation of where we were getting almost to the point where it was like 14. So basically the bar was just the tiniest bit off, and we just needed those few more points into frost buildup in order to make it 14 hits instead of 15. So when we hit for that 15th hit, that gave us the extra oomph that we need to cross the threshold, fill the bar completely, and activate and proc cold. And because of the way frost works, we have to hit the target with fire, and when we do that, it completely resets the frost bar buildup so that we have to reapply it from scratch again, which means when we start to apply it, it's going to get us to that last little bit that we need at the 14th hit, but not put us over. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So for the damage for frost, our first hit before we got the debuff on us did 9,004 damage. Every activation of frost after that did 8,973 damage. So to all of those people out there in my comments section who were claiming that bleed is so much stronger than frost buildup, you were right. It is. We got a lot more damage out of bleed than we did frost. Now for hit count, I'm going to say that that's the same. Once again, I know it took one more hit once we hit that target's cap on resistance to frost being built up on it, but I think that's just because we didn't have the same exact buildup on both weapons. I think if we had the same buildup on both weapons, it would have been 14. Considering the fact that the first set of buildup was 7 and then the second to activate it was 10, and that was the same for both. And then after that, we apparently hit the cap for the target, and it was 14 for bleed after that and 15 for frost after that. I'm gonna say that if they were both the same, they both would have been 14. And that's just because we had some slight variables in the testing. The key thing to take away from this test and this video is the fact that we did a heck of a lot more damage with blood buildup than we did with frost buildup. So before we got the dragon's damage debuff on us, there was a 4,505 damage difference between blood and frost in favor of blood. After we got the dragon's damage debuff on us, we saw a damage difference of 4,434, once again in favor of blood buildup. So not only is bleed easier to apply to targets that can be bled, because you don't have to try to reset it to reapply it again. You just keep attacking and keep reapplying it. It also does more damage. Now, one thing I did notice is that applying frost to the target causes them to flinch a little bit more than when they have bleed applied to them. But considering the damage that bleed can do and how much more damage it does over frost, I mean, it's kind of the clear winner on which one of these is a better option to go for. So anyway, that's it for this one. Just a short, sweet video. I just wanted to get the information out there just in case some of you would find it helpful. If you did find it helpful and informational, consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to my supporters on Patreon for making this episode possible. Y'all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to join my elite crew of Patreon supporters, please check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.